this meeting to order at 4:34. The next item is the consent agenda.
I will motion to approve.
I'll go with second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so moved. Okay, written communications from the public? Excellent. Public comments? I don't see anybody, so nope. All business, capital needs.
So kind of today. So they repaired some of those drains, but not all of them that they broke. The rippers broke, and one of them leaked last night. One of the repaired drains. Didn't come in the library. It was in the Project Inkwell, is where it leaked into. And I'll have a further update.
But didn't leak into asphalt, did it?
No, but that's that's right above local history.
Local history, which we do not want anything leaking into local history.
And it's happened before, down into Project Inkwell and then into local history. So it didn't happen this time, but it's always a possibility.
There was a leak on Monday, an adult, was that connected at all?
Nothing to do with the roof. That was a water meter that needed to be repaired for a long time. But that's been taken care of also. But that was in an office area. So that's where we are, and they are still not done. I want to say that they started on this roof shortly after my granddaughter was born, and she can say hi, Grandpa now. So.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Your granddaughter's really smart. Very good.
We'll start getting worried when your granddaughter graduates high school and we're still talking about this.
So
You can just get
it's
it
been a
out.
long project, and it's still not done to anyone's satisfaction. They're still having to weekly drain some gunk out of the HVAC system. They're working on a long-term solution for that. There's a section of pipe that just needs to be replaced.
Our new system?
What's that?
The new system?
No, that's a pre-existing. So the new system is fine. It's just some of the stuff that it plays with, that it works with, is old stuff. And so there's a section of pipe that needs to be completely replaced, is my understanding. And that's probably going to be a fall project, is what I'm told. The staff here at the maintenance staff here at the library until today didn't have any control over the HVAC system. So we were seeing temperatures on that side as low as 58, 59 degrees inside. In the Staley yesterday morning
That
was
seems like a waste of
61 degrees.
energy.
Well, here's these systems work a little differently than your home system. What was happening is the heat wasn't on. And the heat is used to balance off. So it's water, it's cool and warm water that is regulating the temperature, and there was no warm water. So it wasn't calling for any warm water. So that has been fixed because he didn't have any control over it. So there was a sensor that was bad. That was the thing. The sensor was saying that it was 333 degrees outside. So
And we're all
yes.
dead.
We are literally,
Yes. So that has been taken care of, and it is no longer. It is now 72 in the Staley, whereas yesterday morning it was 61.
I would like the 61 personally.
A couple people did. I thought it was a bit chilly, but
I would have been loving it.
yeah, 65 I can live with. 61's a bit much.
Yes.
So
Fingerless gloves. I wore them all morning.
I would say that when I moved into my house, we were having some issue, original, and the company that put in everything in our house came in and was like, you have the wrong pipe going from your unit to your exterior. I'm like, well, I'm like, you guys put it in. They're like, oh, no, we didn't. You had the wrong pipe put in. I was like, I didn't own the house, you guys built it, it's you. So,
Well, no.
I get the pipe issue, which can cause quite a bit of issue.
Correct.
Are we having any more problems with the bathroom situation?
No,
You haven't brought it
No,
up for
not a-
several months, and
not a single,
kind of like-
not a single incident that we are hoping
so that seems to
is-
have been fixed.
Yes,
Something actually worked.
yeah, yes,
And we're not daily flushing that one?
correct.
Okay.
And that daily flush, I don't know that they've done it in quite a while.
No.
It seems to be working, so.
So with furniture projects, I've noticed that we still are missing something.
Yeah, still don't have our,
Records.
here's how I'm framing it now. 14 days without a delay. So we haven't been, in 14 days, we haven't been delayed further. But we're still, as far as we know, 16th and 17th is when the reference desk will be installed. Some other fixes will happen. And we still don't have a date on the correct security officer desk, because that's the wrong height. We don't have any date on that. So I'm working on getting I know we owe Thomas Interiors, once they get everything fixed, roughly $32,000. I'm working on getting it out where we are with Library Furniture International. Everybody else is paid off, and I think it'll be about 1,000 more to our architect. And then whatever Bowdine's going to cost, I think it might be about 2,000 more. Bowdine Electric, they've got some electrical work to do when we get the new. So I was hoping to have that number for you today. I don't. So hopefully by Thursday.
Any other old business?
I mean, the conversation that was had between Paul and Sophia and Rick, I almost said city manager, the mayor. I don't know if we want to kind of
Yeah,
say that we have leads or old business nonetheless, but.
Yeah, happy to talk about that here if you guys would like us to. So we kind of gave the same talk that we did with Councilman Horn and Councilman Cooper. I think that my take was, again, sympathetic. She seemed particularly enthusiastic about the work that's being done with teens. I don't think she gave us a whole lot of reason to be optimistic.
Did it?
And I wanted to run this by you guys, and I'll certainly talk about the full board. Well, I've set up another meeting with Councilwoman Cruz, tentatively Tuesday the 15th at 4:30, so if one or two of you can attend, that'd be fantastic. Can't do more than two. But I think that it might be in our best interest to have a public campaign where we talk to our patrons and say, here's what we want to do, here's why. Can you call City Council and let them know if you support this? So I'm hoping that so this is July, so next month's meeting, it's pretty early. I can try to have a number that we can aim at by August finance meeting for next year, what we might need revenue-wise. And what that would be in terms of an ask of City Council. So, one thing about the process of budgeting, and Sophia and Carl, you definitely know this. Emily, you might, but so how it typically works is that I want to say this stuff exactly right. usually the city finance director, CFO, the treasurer of the city. Back when it was Greg, it would be me, by September saying, can I get a PPRT number and a property tax number? And I don't usually get it until late October. So I'm figuring on expenses and having to get those figured out. I don't even know what the revenue is going to be. So I can't plan it, and we can't think bigger ever because we don't know. And then we're told really late in the budget process what our revenue is going to be. I want to say, here's what Illinois statute says. Under the Local Library Act, it says that, I think it's 90 days, might be more or less, but before the end of the fiscal year, the library board shall inform the corporate body being city council, how much they need to operate the library in the next fiscal year, and the corporate body shall levy in that amount. That's what
Meaning that we are allowed to ask for what we want.
yeah,
So,
that's the plain language says that they shall.
Say, we have to
The
say.
plain
what we
language
want,
is shall,
what we need.
so we've never done it that way. Just because we do it doesn't mean they will, but I think we need to get them a number before they give us a number.
Let's
We
do
need to
it.
say, here's what we need for next year. And
operating on our half-staff, situation at that city staff.
I would say that, I mean, effectively, we've been meeting with the mayor and all the council people, is that they will not be surprised. We are giving them proper warning about what we need, what our problems are, the fact that we are low on staffing and that we need a certain amount of money, the fact that PPRT hasn't come through. So I think that if we come up with a number that we need,
So,
it's not gonna be a
so I'll
big shocker.
propose something to you guys, and you
And
guys.
you're building a,
Cushion, because we
But
don't get all the property
I think-
tax.
It boils down to, as we said to Councilman Horn, it's a political process at the end of the day. But it's also kind of a bargaining thing, and we've never bargained, we've just, whatever they've said is what we've done. And I think if we anchor the bargaining by making the first offer,
Yeah.
that may bode well for us. Again, we do it respectfully, we do it, they do hold the purse strings. And, Constable Cooper he was very honest in his assessment was, not that I'm unsympathetic, it's just that I think people's property taxes are too high. That's not, but that kind of gets around to why I want it to be also I think a public campaign is worthwhile, because I know they're hearing our property taxes are too high, our property taxes are too high, our property taxes are too high. They expect to hear from me and from you guys, we should have more revenue. If they're hearing from
The public.
patrons, the public, that I think it makes a difference.
Well, can we have like a little QR code that people could scan? as
All
they
kinds of
walk
things,
in?
all kinds of things we could do, but I'll bring it to the full board next week. Mostly I want the blessing of the board before we do something like that, because that's,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a long answer to your simple question. I think that I felt like she was sympathetic. I felt like she asked questions and was engaged. But I don't think she gave us any overt, at least, reason to be optimistic.
No.
Just in a quick summation, I know you've met with him, though it was probably more specific, but maybe it was not. But how the city manager got know it's the process. He's not a vote per se, but where is his understanding of belief, I guess, where it relates to what revenues he versus not?
So, if I understand your question correctly, when I met with city manager, I also met with deputy city manager and city treasurer. They asked a few questions, but it was mostly I talked, and they said, thanks for coming. I didn't get any feedback from them. I've had conversations with Tim where he, for instance, said he really thought we should have been able to capture the growth last year, because again, there was 7% growth in the EAB, and we got a 3% increase, I think less than 3% increase in our property tax levy. And he thought, make hay while the sun shines. If we're growing, at least capture the growth. He expressed agreement with me on that.
Here's one thing though, like, also, I was thinking about this after I left, I thought that the foundation was gonna do something for 150th, like to try and raise money. Why, what can we do to encourage them to have a capital campaign or something?
Well, I think those are two very separate things. I want to keep them very separate.
No, they should be separate, I just,
Because
I feel
it's,
like.
the operating budget is not something that the foundation should be responsible for. However,
No, but there are things that the foundation could be doing to help out
I would,
as well.
I would appreciate any assistance from this board. I think that's a question that might better be answered by Samantha, since she's on that, well, Carl's on that board too.
I will say, it's the current president's intention of that board to collapse the board and kind of consolidated the Friends and the
Which I
foundation
don't
into
love.
one,
So
which-
how do we get a different president of that board?
I was thinking the same thing, Sophie, and I even looked up the foundation's website, and I just saw president, vice president, and is that all that's on their board, or do they have?
No.
There were at least two committee.
I'd be happy to have this conversation offline.
Yes, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely slightly off.
yeah.
Good point. Yes, we'll talk about that shortly.
Okay, let's go on to the check registry. Anybody have any questions?
I just have one.
Go ahead.
Okay, on the Boat Iron Electric, data and rec on column.
Yep.
What is that for?
So, we put the circ desk,
Yeah,
so there's a column right in front of it.
yeah,
We put a monitor up there, so when somebody walks through the security, we see what's going on
Okay.
the monitor. Yep. That was the installation.
perfect, thank you.
How about Bridgeall Libraries Limited?
Yeah.
That's Collection HQ. It's through Baker and Taylor, and I would do a very bad job of explaining what Collection HQ is for, but Melissa can tell you.
It helps us with collection maintenance. And it's gonna be weekly soon. Currently it's monthly. They get data sets from our ILS that show what's being checked out and what's not. And we can run reports and we can see granular data to see what's checking out, what's not checking out. It helps us discover what's missing, what we should consider to get rid of, what we should consider replacing. It analyzes the data and says, hey, you are overstocked here, you have too much, you don't need this much. You don't have enough over here. And it informs all of our collection
that's
people
a handy-
what to buy, what to leave.
And that's an annual.
I was just gonna ask if that's annual or?
It's annual, and we've been doing it for quite a while now, and everybody's finally kind of in this is how it works. And it changes, it helps us read the diversity of our collection as well now. And I believe they've been purchased by another company, but I couldn't.
Well, I've got the invoice right here. I thought it was still,
But we still have all the same
Not
people.
allowed anymore.
it's still said Baker and Taylor.
I would say, made me feel from that.
I can get to an email.
I personally like diversity, but whatever.
Well, it's in Glasgow.
Yep, it's always been.
Check should be mailed to Baker and Taylor's, attention Bridgeall Libraries.
I will see what I've got and when it's gonna happen.
And confidential on-site paper shredding, that's something we don't usually do, right?
We do it, try to do it this once a year. So we get permission, we apply to the state, we've got a schedule of destruction of documents, and each year, we gather the documents based on the schedule. We fill out an application, we send it to the State Archives Department, they say, yes, you may destroy these, and that's how we
Sounds
do it.
complicated.
It is complicated, but it's,
Very
Yes,
complicated.
yes.
State documents.
we had a former board president who ran that department for a while.
I have a question. The Best Stringer subscription, I'm assuming that's for the Decatur magazine. It's check number 167646.
Yep.
It's listed under 35 library fund, but the same check number is also listed under 59 library trust funds.
Yeah, that is because local history gets a copy too.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's their-
Oh,
that's-
okay.
Local
So you
history.
just did it on the same check, but you just took it out. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a good catch, Paul.
I know, right?
Dang.
Oh, and I have
That's
one more
something
question.
you would catch.
I catch that when it's in a file and I can filter it, but.
I have one more question. What treasures do we have in our safety deposit box? I saw that we got.
I was also curious.
So we have,
We're just nosy.
that's a great question, because here's the thing, we don't have access to it right now.
What?
Everybody whose name was on it is retired.
So you don't know what's in
We're
it?
working on getting access to it. I know one thing that's in it, is the Lincoln photo that was taken here in Decatur. We've got the
okay.
negative, and it's in there, but I don't know what else is in there. Becky probably knows almost all of it.
Oh, okay, so it's valuable.
But we still need
historical-
access.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the lady at the bank who said, well, are you this person? And I said, no, none of those people work at the library anymore. She said, well, and so we contacted Joanne Stanbury. Joanne was in Michelle's position for 40-some years. Joanne said, I'll stop, I'm downtown, I'll stop in the bank. And she did, and that lady wasn't there.
Oh, dang.
And then they tried to connect, and they haven't connected yet, so I need to get in touch with Joanne
Oh
and
gosh.
get it going again.
Yeah.
And the
Well,
post
say-
office, right?
No,
that's
UC
what
Bank.
Oh,
UC Bank.
that's different, yes. So I would say the post office can just drill the lock key and they'll just.
No, they will not, well, it's not about key, it's that they keep the key.
This is
Yeah, they just have
It's
to
that
have.
they need, but they only will let
Uh-huh.
certain people, the bank has access to it, we don't. So we need to update.
It's safe, we'll get there.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do with all that stuff that's in there?
Keep it safe. We pay $55 a year for it.
Yeah, I mean, the negative is probably in its own way priceless.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library would love to have it, but they would have to, I think, physically restrain Becky for that. But I'm not sure off the top of my head what else is in there. But I don't know that there's a plan, it's just a place to keep it safe. You know, when I say priceless, I don't mean it's worth millions, I just don't think, unless you put it out there, you would have any idea of what you could get for it.
It's like our, it's shares.
Right. And I was gonna bring you guys, I've got the final report on that.
The one that's made from the front.
Yes, I need to get that and show it to you guys.
So does anybody else have any more questions on the check registry? Should we make we'll make a vote, motion to approve? Anybody second it?
I'll second it, Paula.
Okay, so we'll start with you, Blake.
Aye, or yes.
Um,
Aye.
Aye. So moved, it's passed the second check registry as presented to the board. Okay. section.
Yeah, this is where it gets.
Dicey.
So, end of June, half the year's gone.
I love that forecasting. It's like they will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've collected 0% of our property taxes, that's normal, and about 48% of our other revenue. We're right on track. Payroll and benefits. I don't really have any concerns on any of the spending stuff. We've got some lines that are a little higher than we'd like, and we've got some lines that are much lower than expected. But here's our cash position for our operating fund as of July 1.
So you're saying it's not good?
It's not good.
And we've already gotten our first system. Or is that on a case-by-case basis?
It's just done. No, they're just paying our bills. Yeah, they're just paying our bills, and then so one thing to keep in mind is there is no library bank account.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
this-
they are across the
There's one bank account, it's the city's bank account. We just track this stuff via software. Capital fund is at 160, roughly 8,000. And county fund is at just under 6,000. Meyer fund, and this is where one of the Decatur magazine subscriptions is paid from, is 33,000. Memorials and donations, a little over 13,000, for a total cash position of $120,977.85. So we're not, our real cash position is not underwater, at least it wasn't as of July 1st, it probably is today. Because we've had a payroll since then. I did get the award letter for the per capita grant.
That's all.
And
Saw on the news.
you saw that on the news, it was all
I was
over the
making my
place.
morning coffee and I was like, is that right?
Yeah, but we haven't gotten the cash yet. This is something the library used to experience for March, April, May, June, and into July every year. But it hasn't happened in a long time.
Since Rick took
So
over.
I'm not happy about it. So let's talk about the projection. Personal property replacement tax, right now, based on half a year's data, I'm saying it's going to be $207,000 short. I'm told by Ruby James, Chief Financial Officer of the City of Decatur, it's going to get worse. The state's fiscal year started July 1. She said it's going to get worse. I have long thought this, and it was confirmed by the mayor, that tax has not gotten any lower. It's just the state is keeping more of it. They're reappropriating this revenue. They're not giving it to the schools and parks and libraries and municipalities that they're supposed to give it to.
There's something in that.
So, and this is the root of our issue, of our problems, is personal property replacement tax has tanked. We're talking about a $700,000 swing over a couple of years.
That's a lot of money.
I haven't, you guys gave me a raise last week, or last month, I guess it was 2 weeks ago. I have not incorporated that into my projection yet, but we still should be in very good shape there. Again, our spending, we're fine. 38,000, good, but this total deficit here, in-year deficit, includes money we intended to transfer from one fund to another. So if you take that out, it is the real deficit for the year will be, in-year deficit will be $117,000 roughly. But I was saying 150 a couple months ago.
Okay.
I saw a question percolating within.
I see one with him too.
Oh, you really read my face there. So, there's two ways to look at a our expenses are out of whack. But playing devil's advocate here, I know we ask for more money, we talk to the council members, maybe we run a public campaign. At what point do we say, we're gonna have to cut? Like, when does that happen? I haven't been in a situation on the board like this, whereas some of you may have. At what point do we say we have to do, like, we have to not host this program, not buy these books, I don't,
Well, we did cut this year.
Yeah.
We cut out, we were gonna get the whole locker, that's budgeted,
Yeah.
and we're not gonna get that. We didn't send anybody to the American Library Association conference. Those are fairly low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Easy enough to cut. This number right here, another big number that we have control over is books and materials. We haven't, that's a core service, and we haven't,
Yeah.
we've raised that once in 11 years, I think. So basically, then it comes down to personnel.
When we currently operate as a book as half capacity.
Yeah.
So my simple answer to your question, in my opinion, is once we find out we don't have the revenue, that's when we have to, we have to. But at the end of the day, that's this body's decision.
Yeah.
Is there a balance sheet for the library? I mean, we always only get, revenue
You mean beyond
beyond just.
this?
Beyond that, yeah.
So you want something?
Well, I'm just curious, because I feel, I guess that would technically be most of our equity in the cash position, because it's not like we have probably a large number of receivables or.
Yeah, we have our assets, but.
It's cities anyway. Okay, no, I'm just
Yeah, I mean, if
trying
you're,
to look at it like how you look at a construction company.
if you're looking for just, sorry, if you're looking for a balance sheet that's more detailed, there's probably something I can pull out of Munis.
It's not, I'm just,
It's just, I know the basics of Munis is our software, our financial software. There's probably something I could pull out of there if I worked with Anthony or Ruby, I'm sure I could get something. What my predecessor always reported to the board was she just ran the reports right from the software. And what I was asked by the board when I came here was, can you make this more simple? So,
She is very nice thing to do.
so that's,
no, it's all.
after a few years, this is where we ended up.
Yeah.
Oh, most of the time, this is exactly
Yeah.
enough information, but when it gets to the point of the hard questions,
Correct.
where can we cut?
Yeah, I'm
But yeah, it almost always comes down to
I'm on the state library board, and we're looking at $5.8 million in cuts, so I get it. But that money is all, we're looking at services, and we're doing what we can to preserve, and I think we will preserve personnel. But really, as we sit there and we talk about what can we cut, everybody agreed on two things that added up to 300,000, and we're trying to get to 5.7 million. So we still have our work cut out.
Yeah.
Everybody can agree on what they want to save, but, so this is money we know is gone. It's gone. It's not coming. Unless the appropriations committee of the Senate says, budget began, we're going to appropriate money for MLS, and that will be, that's a whole other story, that's a fairy tale.
As far as I see it,
Yes. Yeah. So,
Just curious. Yeah.
it's a question that, look, the union's asking me that question. Staff is asking me that question. I'm asking myself that question. It's usually August, but it will be this month, whether I begin work on the next year's fiscal, on the next fiscal year's budget. So I plan on sitting down with that in the next couple of weeks and making my just my initial pass-through. And I'm already, look, I could go two approaches, okay, and that's guidance from this committee would be, I can say, I can make an aspirational budget, or I can say, here's where I can make two budgets, an aspirational budget and a what if they cut us? What if we don't get a raise? What if they cut us? Budget. The process every year has been one of me trying to guess what they're going to do. I just more or less, I can get at a pretty exact number on personnel and then make little, 2%, 3% increases in other expense lines. I typically keep the book budget the same because that's one that we actually have control over.
We exhaust that line item over here?
Not every year. In most years we do, some years we blow right through it, and there's years when we haven't exhausted it. So it hasn't been super consistent, but yeah.
I don't want to cut off that conversation, so maybe I have some questions there. It's difficult, it definitely would lead to a less than desirable social conversation or situation, if you ask me, though that is the nature of the beast or reality when we talk about politics. But I think it's a two-pronged approach. One, as we already have been speaking to our city council, the one that directly has the ability to levy on behalf, but obviously the larger overarching issue that is causing the situation is the state funding aspect. I guess can butcher us or play devil's advocate in that obviously this is the MO of the president currently is lowering public spending, and this isn't just the federal government, it's a combination of all three aspects of that. But it's the PPRT tax that we have to deal with, and it's been taken away. Pushing on our state legislatures is one that I think is an avenue we might just have to try. I don't necessarily think that's going to bear as much fruit, or that I wouldn't either. But as we spoke to, the taxes have gone away. It's just been diverted to other places. I think of Representative Scheer specifically. Obviously, we've had the difficulty around the school. My school was the bookmobile. Thank you. But I think this is a direct example or the direct counterpoint that we had when we brought that forward. We do not, at that point in time, have the budget to sustain that program. Now, obviously, specifically because of the state's primary contribution to that, we are now looking at potentially cutting more of our core baseline services there. So even though it may be a less than desirable, difficult conversation at first, I think that is one that we should seek to have at some point in time, whether that's just bringing her back in for another visit, have as many board members present for part of that, and then going and talking to some of our, concentrated factors, so we're not breaking board rules. But Representative Scheer and Senator Turner, Sue is getting higher up in her seniority. I will say that in the House. She's running for re-election again. Again, I don't think it's going to be the end-all be-all anything, but putting as many eggs in the basket is seemingly the thing, and the biggest one we deal with is the PPRT aspect.
Isn't there two districts in Decatur? So I think we also have another
House district
and Senate. I think Chapin Rose represents part of Decatur also, or is he?
So can we invite these people in to visit our
Of
library?
course. Yeah.
I thought it was the boundaries.
No, Chapin Rose does not represent Macon County. It would
It's
be
east.
the other Turner has a part of Macon County, not Decatur. That's a part.
Okay.
Of
So I wouldn't care about outside of.
The first two I would focus on would definitely be Representative Scheer and Senator Turner. Obviously, they are of the side of the aisle that makes decisions in Illinois, to put it quite frankly. But, we're talking about the state government. They've done this for a reason, whether or not it's been the decision or idea of our local legislators, but just having them speaking and advocating on behalf of trying to get some of these PPRT dollars putting on paper, telling the story of losing over $700,000 of one's budget within 2 years is a dramatic careening that is completely caused by the state there. And if there's any room that the state can't bear any form of relief and assistance, it's at least worth having the conversation with you guys. So,
Yeah,
what that looks like, we can talk about in greater detail, but
I agree with that, and we can have a further, we can talk further about that, because I think it's important.
especially when it comes to having our 150th anniversary. I mean, not that would be the meeting that we hope for, but these are events that we can hope to, maybe invite some individuals. Like, I don't know, it's a little late for Alexi's schedule, kind of soon, but things like that. We can talk about that afterwards, but I just want to throw that out there.
Nice brief boy.
Yeah, lots of lights issue.
I know. I think the same thing.
You see it at the
Maybe it'll maybe it'll raise our taxes. You keep on talking. And raise our tax, raise our revenue.
Revenue. I mean, I'm Greek.
Exactly. Flag.
Lexi, we need it. Okay. The next thing is the Illinois fund statement. Now, the last time we transferred money, how much did we have in this? Do we have like a specific amount that we want to ask for transfer?
Yeah, this is just a report,
I mean, do we want to like, every time it hits 5,000 transfer, every time it hits 10,000?
Yeah, but keep
Here's
in
the
mind,
thing, the more that's in there, the more it's gonna make interest.
and
okay.
also
Yeah.
keep in mind that,
So the less transfer, the more, the better.
Okay, yeah.
and also keep in mind that these are this is included in our revenue. Okay?
I say just keep it in there.
Yeah.
So when we actually moved the cash, I thought that's adding 35,000, whatever we did to our coffers. It wasn't. It was just making it liquid.
Okay, so we don't care, we don't want it, we just want it.
Looks good, thanks, Rick.
Okay. Budget process, I think we've already talked about that.
Yeah, we have, I mean, that's really what I was gonna get at, that stuff that we talked about earlier is, what direction do you guys want me to take? Do I wanna go austerity, or do I wanna go aspirational? Or
I
do
think you
wanna
go somewhere in the middle.
That's what I
Or
was
somewhere
gonna
in the
say.
middle.
I think you take a conservative approach, like don't be aspirational, like let's be a little realistic,
Yeah.
but let's also not be like doomsdayer.
Yeah, I think when I
Like
say.
you're normal. I feel like you're normally like that.
Yeah, I think when I say aspirational, I'm not, and as I tried to convey, to city administrators, this board isn't going to say, we want to raise the tax by 25%. This is not, I do want to show you something that really sort of, to me, illustrates something that it took me a long time to understand. That's right here. I researched it. So, for years I would hear, well,
Oh, yeah.
we can't, I hear from city administrators or elected officials.
Yeah, those 3 dots.
Yeah.
Zoom.
Okay, so, for years I would hear this, well, we can't raise the library levy because of pensions. I never knew what one had to do with the others. I never knew what one had to do with the other. So the city council every year sets we're not going to raise your property taxes by more than this. It's a self-imposed limit. Okay. These are the property taxes that they levy. Okay. That's not your entire property tax bill. Your entire property tax bill, that's only 15% of your property tax bill. Parks are 11%, public schools are 48%, etc. So, state law says every 2 years they have to, an actuary tells them what they need to, increase the police and fire pension by, and they must do that. That's the first thing they have to do. So what happens is when you put this all in this pie, and the debt service is what the debt service is, right? They can't really change that. It leaves municipal van and library fighting for whatever the crumbs are in their 5% or 3% or whatever limit they proposed upon themselves. Here's my argument. We shouldn't be a part of the pie. We should be a part of the dollar bill. And because we are not, their own, the CAFR, their certified annual financial report, the city's certified annual financial report states in there every year that we're separate units of government. We're considered in their audit because they are the body that handles our money. We pay them to do that.
And we pay them rent on
And
this building.
we pay them rent. If you need further proof that we're not part of the city, we pay them rent. You can't pay rent to yourself. We are not a part of the city. We should be pulled out from here.
Well,
And
they could
you
give us our
guys,
rent money back and then leave us in the pie.
and you guys should
Say
set,
that out
you
loud?
guys should set the levy. And I don't think if you guys had complete control over this, the levy, you would be wildly raising it, you know, but it would at least give, and it would give them more control over what they're doing also.
Is it statutory though? I mean, because obviously the city doesn't collect any property taxes, it's the Madison County Treasurer's Office.
Correct.
They get their Passover, their title passed over through them, and we get it through them per se.
Right.
What,
Or just an allocation.
why? I mean, what would it require for us to collect the funds from the treasurer our own self versus?
That is statutory.
That's what I thought it was, okay, because we are a public body.
The statute gives this body 100% control over those funds, but the city has to collect them on your behalf. So that's, it's a weird setup. It is a weird setup, because you guys are explicitly given absolute control over the funds that come in.
So in our public awareness campaign that you're just talking about, I mean, that, I feel like could be a component of it in that being clearly saying that it is the library that would be increasing your taxes, not the city council.
Exactly, we said that to the mayor, and she said, no matter what, I'm always gonna get blamed, and she's probably right with a, a large portion of the public. But if we made it a part of our public awareness campaign, that could mitigate that.
I don't agree with her in that is in a partisan environment where one side is blaming the other side to get advantage. We do not have that structure, and the city council is dominated by individuals of one ideological stripe versus the other, aside from not having a partisan divide. So I don't think that, for instance, David Horn or Dr. Cruz, she would be on that ideological side, is going to stand up and chastise and say, look, the Republicans are raising the taxes of the city of Decatur for the damn library. I feel like that's just not really playing that scenario out for the sake of personal. Well, not personal, but I had to deal with it. So,
It could be. But I've said to you for years, I've told, I've talked to Councilman McDaniel for years and said, blame us.
if Pat McDaniel, Mr. Monopoly, is coming out and saying, blame us, and we're on the same thinking, I think there's...
No, I was telling him.
Oh, okay.
I said, you can blame us, blame me, blame, anyway, maybe that's what statute says. I mean, statute does say, you guys tell them what you need, they levy that amount.
I think what we need to do is we need to discuss this with the whole board next week, and we need to make that just a specific discussion line item. Our budget, taxes, the city council.
I just think if we're gonna run a public campaign and
Yeah,
if we're gonna keep, even personally campaign for this, I think the whole board should be on the
On
same
board.
page. Agreed. The whole board should be on board.
exactly.
Agreed, and
So
that's
why-
Like, I know where the finance
And that's why I'm
are,
not,
but I do think,
but as far as the budgeting, my process and what I should be, the direction I should be going,
middle of the road.
Really?
I think you guys should be.
yeah.
But here's what but I think that the realism is, again, a catch up here, and then if we could count on even small increases each year, but a get right here, if you will, would cost the average homeowner indicator $45.
But based on your conversations, is that realistically going down there? I feel like no.
So if that, but.
I wasn't in any of these meetings though, so
But,
take that with a grain of salt. I agree when you say it like that, it makes total sense, but again, you have all these people, you're raising our taxes, that's all you hear, and it's like, oh my
See,
God.
what- see, where I don't get it is like, in my house tax bracket, once you get houses over a certain amount of money, they all of a sudden decide my house is worth $150,000 more than it was worth the year before,
Yes.
and raise my taxes by
Yes.
$2,000.
That's realistically what
And to
people are
me-
upset about, but they,
To me, that's
Yeah,
more
yeah,
upsetting than paying a little more for the library. And the thing is I've gotten my taxes lowered a few times because
but to the
there's
general
no way
person,
my house is gonna sell for the amount of money they claim it's gonna sell.
yeah, but to the general person, it's all the same.
I think that's true.
But I would say the majority and the amount of money between like a house that's worth half my amount, I mean, they're paying not even half the taxes I'm paying.
Yeah.
So to me, like, if I had to pay an extra $45 for the library, who cares at this point? But,
But when those assessments go up, when the equalized assessment valuation goes up, we don't get it.
Yeah, exactly, which is a problem.
that's
That's-
what's upsetting to me. It's
Yes.
like,
But
I'm
when it
paying all
goes
this
down, I
money.
guarantee you,
we would
they're
do
gonna
that.
talk to you, they're gonna
Yes,
talk
yes,
the
they
other
will
direction.
share that burden.
Yes.
That's, and I disagree with you on that one, and again, what this board directs me to do is what I'll do, but the one thing I part of disagree in is that I think we need to ask for more than we think we're gonna get. And then they
Yeah,
can,
I do say
yeah,
that.
and then they can make them go do it, that's what
I think that's valid, yes.
No, it's not gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be a crazy amount,
But
But
it's always harder for them to tell you no than it is if you go in with a realistic
And it
budget
is.
and they'll just go
It's a
for it.
negotiation. Shoot
It is,
super
it is
high.
absolutely a
And that's not
negotiation.
super high.
It's not super high, but shoot high.
And also,
And this would be perfect.
and also that a lot of the money, I mean, there'll be, if a business comes into town and is gonna hire 40 people, there's stories all over the news about it. We would hire people
Yeah.
Yes.
with more money, and we would hire
And that
people
would be
into
tax
good
revenue
jobs,
going back into our.
good jobs
home
with
fund.
benefits. There was a time where every union member, when we negotiated our last union contract, every union member in this building owned a home. Every single one, from Pages to, they all owned homes.
Which is what we need.
And that's a good thing for Decatur, I think.
Well, I think we need to mention that in our public campaign, the fact that we would like to hire, we're understaffed, we need to hire people, obviously say it a different way, and we want to hire people at an affordable, whatever.
Yeah, I think those are the details of the strategy we need to figure out, but I would, before we do any campaign, one, I would want your blessing to do one at all. Two, I would bring it to you guys to look at before we move forward with it.
Okay.
But I think I understand, what this board wants me to do budget-wise, not go crazy, shoot for the moon, but I think probably ask for more than we think we can get.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's harder for them to see that. Yeah, and just develop us some, if we do this campaign and stuff, develop us some good talking points so we're all on the same page.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, like this one you do for you sent us for the
yeah.
city council meetings and area.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Does anybody have anything to say?
Nope.
Want to make a motion? Anybody?
No,
that's what I meant by
Motion to
anything.
adjourn.
That's what I meant.
I'll second it.
That's what I meant. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion,